Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more amazing stories. Now let's dive into today's story. The grand ballroom of the Summit Enterprises headquarters was packed with men and women in sharp suits, the hum of quiet conversations filling the air. At the center of it all stood Alexander Blackwood, the billionaire CEO, known for his ruthless business tactics and his unmatched success. But tonight wasn't about business. Tonight was the annual charity gala, where the city's elite gathered to donate to various causes. Alexander moved through the crowd with the same confidence that had built his empire, shaking hands, nodding at familiar faces. But his mind was elsewhere. He barely heard the speeches, barely acknowledged the applause, when Summit Enterprises was praised for its contributions. His thoughts kept drifting to something, someone he couldn't forget. Just as he reached for his glass of champagne, a small voice cut through the noise. "Hi, sir. Why did you visit my orphanage every Christmas?" Silence. Conversations paused as eyes turned toward the girl standing near the entrance. She was young, no older than 18, with simple clothes and wide, curious eyes that held none of the intimidation others felt around Alexander Blackwood. He stared at her, his grip tightening around the glass. No one had ever asked him that question. A security guard stepped forward, ready to escort the girl away, but Alexander lifted a hand. "Let her speak," he said, his voice calm but unreadable. The girl took a hesitant step forward. "You don't know me," she said, "but I know you. Every Christmas, for as long as I can remember, you came to our orphanage. You brought gifts, smiled for the pictures, and then left. But you never spoke to us, never stayed long. So I just want to know why." The air in the room felt heavier. The guests watched, unsure whether to be amused or concerned. No one spoke to Alexander Blackwood like this. For the first time in years, he felt something unexpected, uncertainty. He could have brushed her off, given a vague response, and moved on. But something in her voice, something in her eyes, made that impossible. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Lily," she said, lifting her chin. "I grew up in Sunshine Orphanage, and I think you know something about my past that I don't." A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face, but it was gone in an instant. "That's a bold assumption, is it?" she challenged. "I never had parents, never had any records before the orphanage. Sister Margaret, the head caretaker, always said I was brought there as a baby, but no one knew by who. And every year you came, you watched me. Why?" Alexander exhaled slowly. His usual composure remained, but inside, memories long buried clawed their way to the surface. The truth. The one thing he had spent years avoiding. "Lily," he said, his voice quieter now. "This isn't the place for this conversation." "Then when?" she pressed. "Because I've waited 18 years for answers. I deserve to know." A long silence stretched between them, neither willing to look away first. Then, in a voice only she could hear, he said, "Meet me in my office tomorrow morning." Lily didn't move. She was searching his face, looking for something, anything, that told her she wasn't crazy for suspecting him. But finally she nodded, and just like that, the moment ended. The room exhaled. Conversations picked up again, and Alexander Blackwood turned away, already knowing that by tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, Lily stood outside the towering glass skyscraper of Summit Enterprises, her heart pounding against her ribs. She had barely slept. Thoughts swirled in her mind, each one louder than the last. What was Alexander Blackwood hiding? Why had he visited the orphanage every Christmas? And more than anything, what did he know about her past? A part of her feared that she wouldn't get the answers she was looking for. that he would dismiss her, make excuses, send her away, but she had come too far to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. The lobby was sleek and modern, filled with business professionals rushing to their next meeting. The receptionist glanced at her, clearly unsure if someone like Lily, dressed in simple jeans and a jacket, belonged in a place like this. "I have a meeting with Mr. Blackwood," Lily said, her voice steady. The woman hesitated, then checked her screen. Whatever she saw made her expression shift instantly. "Go ahead, he's expecting you." Lily stepped into the elevator, watching the numbers climb higher and higher until they reached the top floor. When the doors opened, she was greeted by a massive office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The room was pristine, almost too perfect, like it belonged to a man who controlled everything in his life. And there, standing behind the desk, was Alexander Blackwood. He turned when she entered, his sharp blue eyes scanning her as if searching for something. "You came," he said, though he didn't sound surprised. Lily swallowed, trying to ignore the tension in the air. "You didn't give me much of a choice." Alexander gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." She hesitated, then obeyed, gripping the armrests as if they could steady the whirlwind inside her. "I don't want games," she said, meeting his gaze. "Just tell me the truth." He was silent for a long moment. Then, with a sigh, he sat down as well. "All right," he said, his voice softer now. "Let's start at the beginning." Lily braced herself. 18 years ago, Alexander said, "your parents were involved in something dangerous. They weren't just ordinary people. They were whistleblowers." Lily's breath caught. "Whistleblowers?" He nodded. "They uncovered corruption in an international corporation, one that was destroying entire communities for profit. When they tried to expose the truth, they became targets. Someone wanted them silenced." A chill ran down her spine. "And you're saying my parents were killed because of it?" Alexander's expression darkened. "Yes," Lily gripped the arms of the chair. "It was too much, too sudden. But if that's true, then why was I left at the orphanage? Why not someone else? Why not a family?" Alexander hesitated. "Because the people after them weren't just going to stop with your parents." Lily's hands turned to fists. "So they would have come for me too." He nodded. She tried to process it all, but her mind was racing. "How do you know all of this?" Another pause. "Because I knew your parents." Lily's heart slammed against her ribs. "You knew them?" "Yes." His voice was heavy with something she couldn't quite place. "Your father was my best friend." The words hit her like a physical blow. Lily felt like the ground beneath her had vanished. All this time, she had believed she was alone, that she had no one. But now, a stranger, one of the most powerful men in the world, was telling her that he had known her parents, that he had been close to them. Tears burned at the back of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded. "Why let me grow up in an orphanage without knowing the truth?" Alexander's jaw clenched. "Because I thought it was the only way to keep you safe." Lily shook her head, standing abruptly. "That's not fair. That's not your decision to make." "I know," he said quietly. For the first time, she saw something beneath his carefully controlled exterior. Guilt. Maybe even regret. Lily ran a hand through her hair, her mind spinning. "And all those Christmas visits? That was you. Checking in on me." He exhaled. "It was the least I could do." Lily wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to understand. But nothing about this made sense. "What happened to them?" she whispered. "Who did this?" Alexander hesitated. Then he pulled open a drawer in his desk and slid a folder across to her. Lily's fingers shook as she reached for it. Inside were old reports, documents, photographs, some of them of her parents, others of an accident, a wrecked car, blood. She felt like she couldn't breathe. They were run off the road, Alexander said. The official report called it an accident, but it wasn't. Someone made sure they never made it to the press. Lily's throat tightened. And you knew all this? His eyes met hers. I spent years trying to find out who was responsible. But the people behind it, they were powerful and dangerous. By the time I got close to the truth, the trail had gone cold. Lily swallowed hard. But if they were after my parents, why did they stop? Why didn't they come after me? Alexander's expression darkened. Because they thought you were dead. Lily's breath hitched. What? The night of the accident, he said. Someone got you out. Someone hid you before they could find you. That's how you ended. Up at Sunshine Orphanage. Off the grid. A ghost. Lily's hands trembled. All these years, she had been living in the shadows of something she didn't even know existed. She closed the folder and looked up at him. You said the trail went cold. He nodded. Then let's find it again, she said. Alexander studied her for a long moment, as if seeing her in a new light. Then slowly, he nodded. All right, he said. Let's finish what your parents started. Lily's heart pounded. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just searching for answers. She was searching for justice. Lily's heart pounded as she stared at Alexander, her mind racing with the weight of everything she had just learned. The life she thought she knew had been a lie. The orphanage, the loneliness, the unanswered questions. It had all been part of something much bigger, and now she was determined to uncover the truth. Alexander leaned forward, his expression unreadable. If we do this, there's no turning back. Lily squared her shoulders. I don't want to turn back. He studied her for a long moment, then picked up his phone. There's someone you need to meet. Minutes later, the office door opened, and a man stepped inside. He was older, with sharp eyes and a quiet, serious presence. This is Daniel Carter, Alexander said. He was an investigator working on your parents' case. Lily turned to him, searching his face. You knew my parents? Carter nodded. I was helping them gather evidence before they... He hesitated. Before they were silenced. A chill ran down Lily's spine. Do you know who was behind it? He exhaled. Not entirely, but I know where to start. He pulled out a file and handed it to her. This is the last piece of evidence your parents collected before they were killed. It ties the corruption back to one man. Lily's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Inside was a name. Someone high up in a global corporation. Someone with enough power to bury the truth. She looked up at Alexander, her voice barely above a whisper. We have to expose this. Alexander nodded. We will. The next few days were a blur. Carter helped them track down witnesses, old contacts, and hidden records that had been buried for years. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. Her parents had been right all along, and someone had gone to great lengths to cover it up. But then, the threats started. A shadowy figure watching her from across the street. A strange call in. The middle of the night, with nothing but silence on the other end. A warning note slipped under Alexander's office door. Someone knows we're getting too close, Carter muttered. Lily refused to back down. Good, let them know I'm not afraid. But deep down, she was. Then one night, everything changed. Lily was heading back to her apartment when she noticed a black car idling near the entrance. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Something wasn't right. Before she could react, a figure stepped out. A tall man in a dark suit. Miss Bennett, he said, his voice smooth. almost casual. "We need to talk." Lily's pulse pounded. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "Someone who strongly advises you to drop this investigation." Lily's fingers curled into fists. "Or what?" His expression didn't change. "Or you might end up like your parents." Fear gripped her, but she forced herself to stand tall. "You can't scare me," he sighed, shaking his head. "Such a shame. You really don't know when to stop, do you?" Before she could move, the door to the building opened and Alexander stepped out. He froze when he saw the man. "Thomas," he said coldly. Lily's breath caught. "You know him?" Alexander's eyes darkened. "He works for the people responsible." Thomas chuckled. "You always were too nosy for your own good, Blackwood." Alexander took a step closer. "Stay away from her." Thomas tilted his head, as if considering it. Then he smiled. "We'll be in touch." With that, he turned and disappeared into the night. Lily turned to Alexander, her heart racing. "What do we do now?" he exhaled. "We finish this." The final breakthrough came faster than expected. A whistleblower, someone on the inside, agreed to testify. Documents were leaked to the press. Within days, the truth was everywhere. The day people responsible were arrested, the company's corrupt dealings were exposed, and after years of silence, Lily's parents finally got justice. As she stood outside the courthouse, watching the cameras flash and reporters scramble, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: peace. Alexander stood beside her. "Your parents would be proud." She turned to him, her eyes shining. They weren't just fighting for justice. They were fighting for something bigger. She glanced at the crowd. "And now, so are we." Alexander nodded. "This isn't the end, Lily. It's just the beginning." She smiled. "I know." Months later, on Christmas Eve, Lily returned to the orphanage. The children laughed and played, unaware of the battles she had fought to get here. She knelt beside a little girl, handing her a wrapped present. The child looked up at her with wide eyes. "Miss Lily, will you come back next Christmas?" Lily's throat tightened. She thought of her parents, of Alexander, of the long road that had led her here, and then she smiled. "Yes," she said softly. "I'll always come back, because some things, family, truth, and the fight for justice, were worth returning to, always."